Morning everyone. So rather than a WhatsApp message, I thought I'd do a video this week. And it's really about gathering together some of the common themes that I've picked up from each of you in your one-to-one. So I appreciate that for me, I get to experience all the highs and lows, successes of you're all going through individually. I can see some common themes that come out, and I thought, well, let's share this amongst the group. Try it by video. I'm doing another video for one of you anyway, so I thought, let's roll it in. I'll give this a go. I've given you a nice backdrop as well. It's a beautiful morning. So I've got some notes. If my head drops down, it's just to have a look at these because I can't remember them all. So I think I've got 6 ones here. So the one that's strongest been over the last month or so is different reactions and state changes with events being cancelled or postponed. I think that people are going through a different sense of frustration, acceptance, new change, new future. I don't know what the future is going to be for some of the events that are in the autumn. The brutal duathlon I just saw has been postponed through to next year, so effectively cancelled. And the age group qualifiers have also, by the looks of my reading of the BTF site and email, they are all now rolled in. No announcement yet as to what's going to happen to the events from this year, how they're going to manage that. But I can really appreciate how challenging it is for people when you've got that purpose and that goal. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is just accept how you're feeling with those reactions. Don't necessarily judge yourself too harshly, and then allow yourself to go into a process of re-establishing some other goals. You know, people will have a sense of almost grief or loss for the future that they were predicting or what they had their heart set on. Accept that, give yourself some time, and then the constructive part of it, the forward-looking one, I'd say comes in two actions or two pieces of advice that seem to be working for people. One is set yourself your own certainty. So I'm happy to work with you, and we can do it as a group. Create some DIY events. So yes, it's not the same as a major competition, but it gives you a really good focus for your training, and there can be multiple ones. So time trials on Zwift, 5k time trials out with yourself or with friends. They can be done in the short term, and then you can build on those. And I'll come on to it later, but the open water swimming opening up is brilliant because it allows us to incorporate some swimming into things as well. I would definitely advise thinking in your own mind what could be some good events that you would like to target as DIY, and then I'll work with you to get those into a training plan, and we'll do the progression, we can do some of the taper, and we can do some of the race prep. This all comes back to the second tip, which is a quote or a concept that I heard yesterday, which is thinking about planting the seeds today for your future towards the end of this summer season, race season, or into next year. This is the time where patience and those seeds can be planted, and you give yourself a new future. So kind of it leads on to that, but nutrition, it leads on from it, nutrition, and the discussion we had, really good follow-up. So there's 2 individuals in the group that have taken that and are pushing ahead. One of them as well is considering nutrition in the much longer term, and that comes to the concept or links to the concept of planting those seeds. Some of these actions you need some patience with, and you can trial it. It may work for you, it may not. Changing some of your nutrition habits in terms of the use of carbohydrates through long sessions, long activities, cutting back on that, seeing how your body reacts to it. These are things you want to try over multiple weeks. Planting those seeds and allowing them to trial it when you haven't got the pressure of races is really, really powerful. It's a real opportunity you can grasp just now. So it's great to see some of that nutrition follow up. What I would suggest is have a look in your individual Excel sheets. Each of you should have a tab that says reflection and headspace. Inside of those tabs there's a grid, and it's a grid based on time, very short duration through to multi-year. and there's rows covering various topics. Spend some time and just look towards the longer dated columns, and each row, and it's things like nutrition, it's contemplating your goals, and thinking the longer term, so we can bring back to this next quarter, going in through the summer, how we can plant relevant seeds so you can achieve those bigger gains. The quote generally is that people overestimate how much they can do a month and dramatically underestimate what they can achieve in a year or in multiple years. So definitely encourage you, when you're out running, when you're doing a session in the turbo, in your shower, wherever you do some good thinking space, grab a couple of those rows and put some notes in, maybe print it off and write down some changes, the long-term changes that you'd like to achieve. Okay, so that's some of the goals and the nutrition. Next one on this is open water swimming. So great to see in the UK and England that open water swimming started. Once it gets more reliable, we can then start to incorporate some actual swim sets into your training plans and think about what we want to do with that. At the moment, the target for people would be fun, get back in the water, do it socially with social distancing, but just enjoy yourself. It's a really good release or sense of, yay, we're moving forward, happiness. If you want something to practice, focus on some open water skills, predominantly sighting and fitting your wetsuit correctly. So turn up early to the venue and really try to make sure you find that your wetsuit is fitted. Think about then for future where it is you need to focus on. It may be pulling it high enough in the legs, it may be that you're pulling it so you've got enough shoulder flexibility. Give yourself a really good warm up, make sure you stretch and pull the material. Don't use your fingernails, use the flats of your fingers. You can use plastic bags on your hands and your feet to put it on. You can use gloves as well, but make sure you're stretching the material so it's fully on. By the time you go in the water, it'll loosen off a little bit more, but you can't adjust it once you're in the water, particularly in the UK and London with the docks. Once you're in, it's a little bit of a pain to get back out again. There's not a stopping point, there's not a beach you can just come up to the side of and do any adjustments. And once it's wet, I find it pretty difficult to adjust. So make sure you do that. Also think about your warm-up routine before you go in the water. The water's getting warmer, but think about your warm-up routine, and it's something then you can incorporate into future events. Brilliant. No, the open water swimming's back on the cards. Next one is the toolbox sheet that we have. I've made a decision to start putting a lot more information in there. Some of they're beyond draft, but not necessarily fully polished sheets. Definitely have a look in there. Some of the things that the group has asked for, Amy asked for some more structure to a cool down session. So there's more in there on the cool down, there's more in there on warm-ups, particularly for run. On the turbos, generally you progress quite nicely, but there is definitely things you can use from the cool down for the run that translates into any cool down session. There's things in there on anatomy as well. There's a couple of pictures on anatomy where you can look at the muscular anatomy. So if you've got a pain in your shoulder, if you've got pain in calves, you can then see what are the major muscle groups and how is that actually one layer underneath the skin. How is that kind of structured in your body? What are the areas that are connecting to where you might find some tension? How can you release those areas? How can you stretch those areas? So maybe if you've got pain in the calf, if you actually look, you can see the makeup of two muscles and major muscle groups in the calf, and then the connections above, things like the ITB, and below all the way down the Achilles tendon under the soles of your feet. So have a think, okay, if pain's here or tension's here, let's do a more generalized work of that whole area, because it may be that it's referred pain or referred tension from some other kind of imbalance or overuse. Feedback, definitely welcomed. If it's things you want to see as well, just let me know, we can expand it. Loads of videos in there as well. So take your time, have a look through and a browse. If there's anything you don't understand, just ping me questions. If you think they're relevant for the group, ping it to the group. Okay, strength work. Common theme from a couple of you. The strength work doesn't feel as accountable. I sense that as well from the completion rates of the sessions, and happy to work on an individual basis for what makes sense for you. Top 2 tips that have come out in the last month, particularly working with Chris, gave us some really good suggestions. If you want, I can swap your strength or body weight, or the strength one with, say, kettlebells or some weight. I can swap it for one that doesn't reference you over to the Excel sheet, but has the text in the Training Peaks activity, if that helps. The other thing I would really strongly suggest you do is print out the grid of exercises on a piece of paper and follow it that way. It means you've got it for a number of weeks. Also, in each one of those exercises, you can mark down for relevant ones how many reps you've completed. Chris is working with me to actually put that into his comments on Training Peaks, so he's got a record of it electronically and we can discuss it. What's progressing well, what numbers look good, what's the balance like between different exercises, say press-ups to tricep dips, what would generally be strong in one area, weaker in another, or super strong, and then we can say, well, let's do some more work, how do you find this? And we can then look at that in terms of either more flexibility work, might be holding back something, or we can translate it into specific progression, perhaps in running or swimming, etc. So top tip there, print out the grid and keep track of it either directly with me in Training Peaks or on your own template on your printouts. Okay, what we got next? This one is apology slash an ask of you guys. There's been 2 incidents in Training Peaks where the information hasn't been correct. We've caught them, but the 2 asks would be, if you see something you think doesn't look right, please just yell. I try and be perfect, but there are some times when either I make a mistake or Training Peaks is not behaving right. So we've seen it on one session where the calculated duration went wonky and it auto-calculated and was too high. Wasn't a disaster, we caught it, we've corrected them. The other one was something which has happened a few times. The files for the turbos haven't saved correctly in the workouts. So the name that's on the turbo session isn't the name of the file that's included in there. I'm going to have to find a different workflow because it's quite time consuming to do this, and when I'm saving them, they're looking correct. Something is happening in Training Peaks where these are then no longer saving the file that I've saved. I think it's to do with how I'm cloning and copying an original source file, and somehow Training Peaks is not syncing them afterwards and overwriting that original file. So if you do see anything a bit, I'm not sure, this looks either like a big jump or these files aren't matching up, please just yell. Phone me if you need to as well. If you're about to jump on the turbo, give us a phone. I'm usually on WhatsApp. If I don't answer, I'm busy, but I really don't mind. If I'm around, I can jump on and get it corrected or answer any questions. That's it, really, from me. So, forward thinking, big one, events. You're not alone if you find that your events changing are, you're not really got the mojo. Allow yourself to accept that, and then think about what we can do working together for DIY events, are resetting some new goals, particularly those seed planting goals, or think multi-year. So if you've got this little voice, that little seed of a dream that you're looking for, why don't we share that and we'll explore it a little bit? And maybe it's not this year we achieve it, but maybe this year is the planting of the foundations, or the building of the foundations, so that when we go into the winter season, then we can continue on with that training. So come spring of next year, you're absolutely best placed to achieve whatever goals it is that we're starting to establish now. Okay, hope this has worked well. Any questions, any feedback, as always, just give us a yell. Alright, and hopefully you liked the view. Okay, have a good one. Bye.